Well, today I've got a doozy for you. If you're a female leader and you've been taught how to communicate effectively, I bet you've been told to speak up more. You've been told to assert yourself more, make your voice heard more. Well, I'm going to challenge that directly today because it's a lie. After 30 years leading organizations, now coaching senior leaders, working with CEOs, directors, and boards, I want to tell you that the most powerful communicators I've ever observed have one thing in common. They talk less than everyone else in the room. This is not because they've got less to say. Great communication at senior levels isn't about output, right? You don't have to keep trying to prove yourself. It's about perception. Just sit with that a minute. It's about perception. And I'm going to show you exactly what that means in practice. Sound good? Yep, sounds fantastic. You see, the standard communication advice for senior women follows a really predictable and boring blinking script. It says, speak up in meetings, be more assertive. I understand where it comes from. Women have historically been talked over, interrupted, ignored, and the instinct to say, use your voice more makes sense. But I want to tell you, when you're in a room and men are speaking loudly, boldly, and really fast, then it's really hard to get a word in edgeways, right? And if you do, you just overcompensate and sound ridiculous. So you have to find ways to observe the right timing within those meetings, right? The right timing so you don't come across like this arrogant idiot who's just trying to be dominant. You come across as authoritative and calm and engaged, and you certainly don't show all of those facial expressions or sit back and withdraw. There's two things women do that I notice: they withdraw or they literally become too much. So, this is really important because it often backfires. And then what happens is you get the label aggressive, not assertive. And basically, they say she talks too much, right? Now, I want to tell you something about men. They're not wired to really connect with female voices. The pitch is too high for them. And so when you're speaking louder, harder, faster, it's neurological. They literally switch off from you. I'm sorry, but the science tells us that. So you got to find a better way. You have to find a different way. And what I'm going to show you is a really profound and different way. Now, the problem with what you're taught is that it literally skips several steps, right? So, yes, you do need to be more assertive. You do need to speak up more. You do need to bring your presence into the situation, but not until you do what I tell you to do, right? So, I'm going to take you through those steps. And these are the ones that are actually going to build your communication power at a senior level. That's right, build your communication power. I love it, right? And so this is where we're going to start. We're going to look at sensory acuity. So you need to learn to read the room properly. This is from neuro-linguistic programming, and it's literally one of the most underused skills in leadership. Now, think of it like the mentalist. You've seen the program, The Mentalist. He can read people, he can read rooms. You have to learn sensory acuity. The ability to notice what's happening in a room in real time. You're looking for micro expressions. You're looking for shifts in posture, changes in someone's breathing. The moment someone's attention moves away from you, you notice it. You see, most leaders in high stakes conversations are so focused on what they want to say that they completely miss what's being communicated back to them. So think about the last difficult meeting you were in. Were you literally watching the room, or were you in your head thinking about what you were going to say next? Well, you've missed the point. Sensory acuity allows you to read the room because the room is always talking in so many different ways. It's telling you who's persuaded and who isn't, who's anxious and why. It's telling you where the resistance actually is. which is almost never where people say it is, right? You can't go in with a fixed mindset. You can't go in and put people in a box. So when you start training your sensory acuity, your ability to read a room, you literally stop reacting to what people say and you start responding to what's actually happening. Yeah. Now, what happens is people allow their ego to get in the way and then they revert back to what they've been taught and they follow this outdated masculine model of dominance, which literally doesn't get the results you want. And you're seen as aggressive because you're trying to work at that level. Now, sensory acuity is just one of those steps I talked about. It's the shift that actually changes your effectiveness in the room, right? So I'm using body language to connect with people. I'm looking at them, I'm reading them. Even when I get on stage, I'm reading that room, I'm feeding off the energy of the room, right? If you don't know how to observe, if you don't know how to be like the mentalist and take in all of that information in real time, then you're never going to persuade or influence or get your point across. And you're never going to know where the resistance points are. The second thing is the strategic silence. This again is the most underused tool in leadership communication. Now, I'm really, really good with the pause. So I want to talk about silence because most people are deeply uncomfortable with it. And that discomfort is costing them influence every single day. Here's what silence actually does in a high stakes conversation. It signals confidence, right? Because only someone who's completely secure doesn't feel the need to fill every gap. It lets pressure land. Now, when you said something significant, silence gives it weight, literally gives it weight. So you say what you need to say, which is really important. You pause and you just sit with it. And it feels so impressive, right? And it creates space for the other person to reveal more than they actually intended. Now, I've watched senior women negotiate, present, and handle difficult conversations for decades. And the ones that command the most respect almost always speak less than you'd expect. They choose their words wisely. They say them with full weight behind them, and then they stop. That pause you just experienced, that's what I mean. Notice how it felt. That's what it feels like when someone is completely present and not performing, right? So now let's look at the next step. This is presence before words, right? This is what I talk about in the presence gap. It's your state determining your impact before you speak. Now, neuro-linguistic programming, the research within this has established something that most communication coaches literally ignore. They just ignore how you occupy a physical space, your stillness, your eye contact, the weight and pace of how you move is processed by the people around you before you've said a single word. When I would walk in a room, my shoulders would go back, my chin would pull in. I would feel that level of leadership within me. I just feel it, right? It would just resonate through my nervous system. I felt calm. I felt relaxed. I felt in poise. So, what you need to do is 30 seconds before you speak in any high stakes situation, you need to basically pause, right? Pause. This is really important. You see, most communication training tries to change what you say, but the real leverage is in changing your state before you say anything. That's right, changing your state before you say anything. When I go in, I say, I'm going to find a solution to this problem. I'm going to listen, I'm going to observe, and I'm going to really read this room and read the body language, read the eye movements, and I'm going to take in every bit of information. And I'm literally going to be in the right state. My presence is going to command the tone of the meeting, right? It's going to command the tone of the meeting. So, what do I mean by state? It's your internal physiological condition. Now, this means, are you regulated or are you reactive? Are you grounded or are you anxious? Are you present or are you in your head thinking about what you're going to have for dinner or what you had for breakfast or who you're going to impress instead of getting into that calm, poised state? The women I coach who have the strongest executive presence aren't performing it. They've learned to shift their state genuinely, physically, before they walk into the room. And the room responds to that. Now, this is really important for you to understand that your state becomes essential. But now let's talk about negotiation through observation, because this is where it really brings the money home, right? It's responding to what people actually need, and it's the last piece. But it's one that is really important for anyone who negotiates on a regular basis, which at senior levels is literally everyone listening to this. Effective negotiation is not about having the strongest argument. That's right. It's not about being the most prepared person in the room, although preparation is really important. It's about reading what the person across from you actually needs, which is almost never what you've been told they need. That's right. People read situations wrong. Imagine me as a CEO. They bring people to me and they've told me or briefed me, and it's completely wrong compared to the message that I get when I'm in the room with people. You see, people negotiate from stated positions, but underneath every stated position is an actual need, a fear, a constraint that they haven't even spoken about. Now, something they're trying to protect. What I do is I'm able to uncover that really quickly because I am using all of these attributes. I'm understanding silence. I know my state. I'm literally walking in with that level of presence, and I understand how to use sensory acuity. Because when you're really genuinely observing, you hear things, right? You can hear hesitation after a question. You can basically see someone's energy shift when a certain option comes on the table. Now, what this means is that you start to gain more authority and more influence. So I want you to understand it's so important to respond to what's underneath. And you're not negotiating anymore. You're solving a problem that they didn't know you could see. Yes, you just have sat in the driver's seat. Fantastic. Well done. Now, this is a completely different kind of power, and it takes you really sitting in your state and in your poise and in your calm. So here's what I want you to actually do with this, right? I want you to actually do with this. In your next high stakes conversation, a meeting, a negotiation, a difficult one-on-one, set yourself one constraint. Say 20% less than you plan to. You can do it. That's it. Don't add anything else. Just take whatever you were going to say and edit it down by a fifth. That's right. Because saying more doesn't make the biggest difference. Right? Then notice two things. What do you observe in the same space? Then notice two things. What do you observe in the space that creates in the room, in that other person? Right? And what does the other person do with it? You'll be surprised. Most people rush to fill the silence. That was never this. And when you stop filling it, you learn things and you land differently. That's right, you land differently. So come back and tell me in the comments what happened, because I genuinely read them.